It began with tiny things. Text me when you get home. Send me a picture so I know you're safe. Don't hang out with him, he gives me a bad feeling. You don't need to work so much, I'll take care of you. Taehyung thought it was love. He thought it was sincerity. He thought Jungkook was being protective. But Jungkook wasn't protecting Taehyung from the world, he was protecting Taehyung from having a world without him. Soon, Jungkook chose his clothes, his schedule, his friends, his voice, and eventually, his silence. Whenever Taehyung tried to argue or pull away, Jungkook didn't yell. He simply held Taehyung's wrist too tightly, pressed a hand to the back of his neck, looked into his eyes with a calmness scarier than violence. Taehyung, he would whisper, "Why are you trying to make me angry?" Taehyung always backed down. He always said sorry. He always thought, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I should just be quiet. And Jungkook loved that. He loved how easily Taehyung folded, how easily he apologized, how easily he surrendered. Taehyung didn't know Jungkook came from a childhood where love meant obedience, where affection meant control, where silence meant safety. To Jungkook, keeping Taehyung close wasn't cruelty. It was survival. Because people leave, people betray, people disappear. But Taehyung was soft. Taehyung was gentle. Taehyung was the only quiet place Jungkook had ever known. And Jungkook thought, if I lose him, I lose everything. So he held on tighter, and tighter, and tighter, until Taehyung couldn't breathe. The real reason Jungkook caged him. Because Taehyung didn't just make Jungkook happy, Taehyung made Jungkook feel, and feelings to Jungkook were terrifying, unpredictable, risky, uncontrollable. So Jungkook made the one thing he feared losing impossible to lose. He caged Taehyung not because he hated him, but because he loved him in a way that had no boundaries, no breaks, no morality. Because Jungkook didn't know how to love someone freely, only how to love someone completely, fatally possessively. It happened after months of slow isolation. Jungkook accidentally made Taehyung quit the studio by starting arguments every time Taehyung left for work. He discouraged friends. He discouraged family visits. He discouraged independence. And one night, Jungkook came home with a small velvet box. Taehyung was cooking dinner, humming softly to himself. Jungkook watched him for a long moment, then exhaled deeply. "Taehyung," he said. Taehyung turned. "Hmm?" Jungkook stepped closer. Too close. "Marry me." Taehyung froze. His breath caught. Not because he wasn't expecting it. He had known Jungkook was heading there. But because of the tone. It wasn't a question. It was a declaration. Taehyung smiled nervously. "Jungkook, I don't know if we're ready." Jungkook tilted his head. "Why not?" "Because we haven't talked about it. Because marriage is big. Because you don't want me?" Jungkook asked quietly. Taehyung's eyes widened. "No, I didn't say that." Jungkook's expression grew wounded, broken. "You don't want me." "Jungkook, that's not it." "You want to leave." Jungkook accused softly. "No." "You're planning to leave me," Jungkook whispered, stepping forward, cornering Taehyung against the counter. "Is that why you said no?" Taehyung's breath shook. "No," he whispered. "I'm not leaving." Jungkook cupped his cheek gently. "Then marry me." It wasn't a choice. It wasn't romantic. It was a trap sealed with a gentle voice. And Taehyung, scared of losing Jungkook, scared of hurting him, scared of triggering anger, nodded slowly. "Okay." Jungkook's eyes softened. He pulled Taehyung into a kiss, not gentle, not sweet and acclaiming. You won't regret it, he murmured, tone warm, meaning dangerous. Taehyung whispered, I hope not. The ceremony was beautiful. White roses lining the aisle, soft music from a live quartet. A small, intimate gathering because Jungkook insisted he didn't want strangers witnessing something sacred. Taehyung wore a cream-colored suit, soft and elegant. Jungkook wore black, sharp, striking, intimidating. People whispered, they look perfect together. Jungkook is so protective. Taehyung is glowing. But Jungkook held his hand so tightly that Taehyung couldn't pull away even if he wanted to. When they stood before the officiant, Jungkook never stopped staring at Taehyung, possessively. When Jungkook kissed him, Taehyung felt tears rise, not from joy, from certainty. This was not a wedding. This was a surrender. Jungkook kissed him hard, gripping his waist, holding him a little too tight as if telling the world, he's mine, all mine, forever. Weeks passed, months. Taehyung became quieter, smaller, more careful with every step, every word, every breath. He hid his true feelings deep inside. He journaled secretly, pages filled with fear, doubt, exhaustion. After the night of the wrong text, Jungkook changed. Not suddenly, not violently. That would have been easier for Taehyung to understand. No, Jungkook tightened control so quietly, so calmly, so convincingly, that Taehyung almost believed it was love. The first thing Jungkook took was Taehyung's phone. You panic when people message you, Jungkook said gently. You're happier when you're not overwhelmed. He said it while stroking Taehyung's cheek. Smiling tenderly, Taehyung didn't argue. He let Jungkook take it. After all, it was true. The messages did make him panic. He didn't realize that panic came from fearing Jungkook. Next, Jungkook took his keys. You're forgetful, Jungkook said. You leave them everywhere. What if you lose them outside? What if someone follows you home? Taehyung swallowed. The logic sounded protective, reasonable, loving. So he let Jungkook slip them into his pocket without protest. Then Jungkook took his social life one friend at a time. Taehyung eventually stopped trying to defend them. It wasn't worth the tension in Jungkook's shoulders, the sharpness in his gaze, the pressure in his voice when he said, I'm the only one who truly cares for you. And maybe he was right. That's how Taehyung convinced himself to accept the last restriction. He wasn't allowed to leave the apartment alone. Not until you feel safe again, Jungkook said softly, kissing Taehyung's forehead. And Taehyung nodded. His world shrank slowly, silently until all that was left was Jungkook. Next morning, while Jungkook showered, Taehyung found something. A file folder, under their bed, hidden beneath Jungkook's old military duffel bag. He opened it hesitantly. And inside were police reports, therapy notes, all from Jungkook's teenage years. Taehyung read desperately, eyes wide, heart pounding. A phrase kept appearing over and over. At 16, Jungkook had been sent to juvenile detention for nearly killing a boy who pushed him down the stairs and mocked him for having no parents. He blacked out. When he woke up, the boy was on the floor, bloody and barely breathing. They put him in therapy after that. One therapist wrote, patient becomes violent only when someone he attaches to is threatened or tries to leave. Another wrote, extreme abandonment trauma, fear of losing attachment objects. His last therapist wrote, if he ever falls in love, God help the person he chooses. Taehyung's blood ran cold. He dropped the file. He stepped back. His mind spun. Jungkook wasn't just controlling, he was conditioned to be. He had been like this before. Taehyung whispered, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? Then he heard Jungkook's voice behind him. Soft, Taehyung, What are you holding? Taehyung froze, slowly turned. Jungkook stood in the doorway, towel around his waist, dripping water, eyes dark. And utterly unreadable, a slow exhale left Jungkook's lips. He stepped forward. 1, 2, 3 steps, until Taehyung's back touched the wall. Put the folder down, Jungkook said softly. Soft. Soft always meant danger. Taehyung's hands refused to move. Jungkook's eyes flickered to the file. The evidence of a violent boy who never learned how to stop fighting ghosts that no longer existed. Was it true? Taehyung whispered. You hurt someone when you were 16? You almost ki? Jungkook slammed his hand against the wall beside his head. Taehyung flinched. Not from the noise, but from the way Jungkook was breathing. Deep, slow, controlled, like someone fighting the urge to shatter. I told you to put it down, Jungkook repeated. Taehyung closed his eyes. You promised you loved me, he whispered. So why did you cage me? For the first time, Jungkook's calm cracked. His throat tightened. His jaw flexed. His pupils trembled. Something inside him fractured. Because I can't lose you, Jungkook whispered. Not you. Never you. Taehyung shook his head. It's not love if I can't breathe. Jungkook grabbed the folder from his hands. Too hard. Papers scattering across the floor like broken truths. Then he grabbed Taehyung's wrist. Tight. Too tight. We're done talking here. Jungkook pushed open their bedroom door and shoved him inside. The lock clicked. Twice. Taehyung's stomach dropped. Jungkook. Jungkook stood against the door as if his body alone was enough to keep Taehyung from ever leaving. His voice was hollow, deadly quiet. You weren't supposed to see that part of me. Taehyung's voice broke. You hurt people, you hurt me. Why? Why, Jungkook? Why me? Jungkook's chest heaved, head in his hands, shoulders shaking, not with sobs but with a storm he couldn't contain. I warned them. Taehyung froze. Jungkook lifted his face, tears, real ones. But his smile, that small broken curl of his lips, was wrong. And then you came along, Jungkook whispered. Soft, beautiful kind. You walked into my life and suddenly I wanted something again. His eyes gleamed with something possessive, unhinged. So I kept you. Taehyung's blood turned to ice. Jungkook stood slowly. The room felt smaller and smaller with every step he took. He cupped Taehyung's face, gentle, shaking, desperate. You're my calm, Jungkook whispered. You're my reason. His thumb stroked Taehyung's cheek. Then, his voice dropped into a darker whisper. The bedroom door opened the next morning. Jungkook stood there, composed, expressionless, too calm. Taehyung hated that calm more than the rage. It meant Jungkook had decided something. A decision was always worse than an impulse. Taehyung followed. He had no other option. His bare feet on the cold wooden floor felt like chains. Jungkook didn't speak during breakfast. He placed Taehyung's plate carefully, poured orange juice, aligned the fork, everything neat and perfect, too perfect. Taehyung watched him with quiet dread. He realized something. Jungkook was trying to reset him. Erase last night. Pretend nothing broke. But the truth had broken. A single streak of golden light slipping through the window, warming his cheek. He hadn't felt sunlight on his skin outside in months. It made something inside him ache. That day, Jungkook forgot to lock the balcony door. Taehyung stood there, staring at it for a full minute. His heart raced, his palms sweat, his legs shook. He whispered, if I go now, if I'm fast enough, maybe. He didn't have a plan. Didn't have money, didn't have a phone, didn't even have shoes. But he had one thing, the tiniest, desperate sliver of hope. Taehyung slipped onto the balcony, climbed onto the railing, lowered himself down onto the fire escape, and ran barefoot. Heart slamming, breath ragged. He ran until his lungs burned, until his feet bled. The rain had been relentless. Taehyung ran blindly through the slick streets, heart pounding, lungs screaming, vision blurred. He had no plan, no destination. Only one desperate thought: get away from Jungkook before it's too late. He didn't see the car until it was almost on top of him. Time slowed. Red light, tires screeching, headlights glaring, and then a heavy weight slammed into him, pushing him off the street. Taehyung hit the sidewalk hard, scraping his knees and hands. Gasping, he looked up. Jungkook. Blood dripping from his temple, clothes soaked and torn. The car had clipped him instead. He had thrown himself into Taehyung's path to save him. Taehyung screamed, sliding to Jungkook's side. Jungkook, stay with me, please. He grabbed Jungkook's shoulders, shaking him. The world seemed to collapse. Rain splattered his face, mixing with tears. He held him close, whispering, "Don't leave me. Don't leave me. Please. I need you." But Jungkook's eyes fluttered weakly. Consciousness seemed to hang by a thread. The ambulance arrived minutes later, though they felt like hours. Paramedics worked frantically, Taehyung gripping Jungkook's hand the entire time. Taehyung paced the sterile hallway, hands trembling, heart hammering. He hadn't realized it until now. Watching Jungkook almost die. He loved him not because he was safe or calm, not because he was perfect, but because he was Jungkook. All the fear, all the pain, all the obsessive control. It didn't matter. Taehyung pressed his face into his hands, sobbing quietly. I love him. More than anything. Hours later, the hospital room smelled of antiseptic and fear. Taehyung sat in the plastic chair, knees drawn up, silently praying. A soft groan broke the silence. Taehyung's head snapped up. Jungkook's eyelids opened slowly. Bruises marred his face. A bandage wrapped his temple. But his eyes, the same dark, desperate eyes, locked onto Taehyung's. I'm sorry, Jungkook whispered hoarsely, for the cage, for the fear, for everything I've done. Please, forgive me. Taehyung's chest tightened. Tears streamed down his face. He pressed his hand to Jungkook's. You scared me. You scared me so much. I don't know if I can forgive. Not yet. Jungkook's eyes widened, panic flaring faintly. I'll do anything, just don't leave me. Taehyung swallowed the lump in his throat. I will forgive you, he whispered finally, voice trembling. But only if you get help. Therapy, real help for your obsessive behavior, for your control, for yourself, for us. Only then will I forgive. Only then can we try again. Jungkook's lips trembled. Relief, fear, and love all collided in his expression. I'll do it. I swear. I'll do it for you. I'll do it for me. For us. Taehyung's tears mixed with the rain still drying on his hair. He pressed his forehead against Jungkook's. I love you, he whispered. I love you more than anything, Jungkook replied weakly. For the first time, both of them understood. Love wasn't possession. Love wasn't fear. It was a choice, made painfully, honestly, and with intention. Jungkook sat in the quiet room, hands clasped tightly on his knees. The therapist, a calm woman with soft eyes, waited patiently. Why are you here? She asked. Jungkook's throat tightened. His hands shook. I hurt someone I love. I control, I cage, His voice broke. I don't know how to stop myself. The therapist nodded. Then we start there, acknowledging it, naming it, understanding it. The first sessions were brutal. Every memory, every act of possessiveness, every time he'd trapped Taehyung all surfaced. He cried, he yelled, he broke down. Some nights he left therapy shaking, exhausted, feeling like the world had stripped him bare. But he kept going because he promised Taehyung he would, because he finally understood that love without change was still destruction. Taehyung visited him in the hospital first, then gradually allowed Jungkook into his life again. He hugged him lightly, letting him brush hair from his face, letting him hold his hand. But only when he chose stop, he would say if Jungkook lingered too close. Not today, he whispered if he felt suffocated. It was awkward, painful. Slowly, trust built. Jungkook learned to respect these boundaries, sometimes failing, sometimes slipping into old habits. Taehyung's patience was endless but not infinite. He made it clear, trust would only grow if respect was real. Over months, small victories accumulated. Jungkook started therapy diligently, learning coping mechanisms, understanding triggers, confronting childhood trauma. Taehyung learned to differentiate between care and control. He learned to speak when boundaries were crossed. He learned to let Jungkook be vulnerable without losing himself. Sometimes they would sit together in silence, hands barely touching, just breathing in the presence of the other. Sometimes they would laugh, real, deep laughter without fear. Sometimes Jungkook would cry about his failures and Taehyung would hold him, whispering, "You're human. You're allowed to fail. You're allowed to grow." It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, it was terrifying, fragile, beautiful. And slowly, very slowly, love began to feel like safety, not possession, not fear, just two broken people choosing each other every day.